Hello, I'm Manish Behl, founder of Mindful Science Center. Today, we bring you one of our very eminent person from UK, Neil Seligman. He's author for Conscious Leadership and founder of Conscious Professionals. Neil specializes in conscious leadership. We are fortunate today that he has traveled all the way from UK to share his insight and views about conscious leadership. Mindful Science Center is a professional organization which brings mindfulness-based, neuroscience-based mindfulness and emotional intelligence to people. Neil is a well-known professional in dealing with conscious leadership. Today, we are fortunate that Neil is with us and will share knowledge and insight with him. Thank you, Neil, for coming all the way from UK.
Pleasure, real pleasure and honor to be here with you.
How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling very good. Excited to be here in Mumbai and to experience the upcoming summit.
So this is your first time to India?
I had one trip to Goa a few years ago, but my first time in Mumbai.
How do you conceptualize the concept of conscious leadership?
Yeah, so for me, conscious leadership is really speaking to the emergence of a new paradigm of leadership consciousness. And it's really challenging today's leaders to be aware, awake, and connected as we rise to meet the challenges of our times. So it's really based in the idea of awareness, which is why it's also supported thoroughly by the whole concept of mindfulness, so that we can be more aware, compassionative, creative, collaborative, listen. It's about leading from listening rather than I say and you do, but I listen, we create together. So it's a shift and it's a challenge because there's lots of new skills which are there within it.
Wonderful. So when we talk about conscious professionals or conscious leadership, is that two different worlds or leadership is different and professionals are different?
I think we get into semantics at that level. For me, I founded my company in 2012 and called it The Conscious Professional. And again, it just seemed to be a nice way of bringing this idea of mindfulness through, but also opening it up a bit. So it was about awareness, about consciousness, about being really, really in the moment, being able to take in our surroundings and all of the kind of ecosystem that business operates in and which professionals operate in. So we get that sense of, like we do in our mindfulness practice, that we practice individually, sometimes in groups, but it's an individual practice too. But it moves out, it reverberates out into our families and communities. And the same at work, this bringing in skills around awareness allows us to resonate and vibrate at a slightly different frequency. And that pulses out through our teams, through our business itself. And then conscious leadership is about, well, we're also connected not just to our own business, but to our neighbors and to the other businesses that we operate with and the other stakeholders in the business ecosystem. And then globally, we also have to bring in our global awareness too. So it's really about awareness and bringing in all of that into one practice.
Excellent. So consciousness to me is a very deep subject to work on. We work on a subtle body, we work on gross body. So where exactly consciousness rests as a leader?
Well, wherever you are as a leader, there will be a vibration and frequency to your consciousness. If we're dedicated to a practice of mindfulness, and if we're looking to become more conscious and aware as a leader, then it's really about working on that from wherever we are. Within mindfulness, we have that concept of be where you are, start where you are. That's the place of action, place of commitment, the place of intention. It meets you where you are, and I think that's the idea with conscious leadership. It's not another kind of yardstick to think, oh, I'm failing at this as well. It is posing us a challenge. It's asking us to develop new skills, but at the same time, it's meeting you exactly where you are.
So how would you explain a conscious person is? Let's not go to the professional or a leader first. Let's being a conscious person. I feel consciousness is a virtue with everybody. If we are not conscious, maybe then we are dead. So how does it differ from being conscious and being non-conscious?
So there are lots of layers to that conversation. I think another way that other people might have talked about this in terms of language is in terms of a mindful leader, and what's the difference between a mindful leader and a non-mindful leader. And I think the things that we can point to there is that there's someone with a practice. There's someone with a practice of self-reflection. There's someone who's been on a bit of a journey with that themselves. And so the way in which they lead is not necessarily narrow focus, but is able to be wide focused, bring in other people involved, but also to have a sense of compassion to themselves, but also to the people around them, and so on. So it's about that practice then filtering out into the way that they lead.
I definitely see what you are coming from, being conscious, being creating a holistic lifestyle in personal life, and then bringing that to other people.
Yeah.
What are the key benefits of being a conscious leader or a conscious professional?
One of the things that we're finding out as this conversation progresses is that we're looking at the question, to what degree can conscious businesses and conscious leaders succeed in our world? And that's a question that we're only really at the beginning of, and we're starting to answer. But if you take a look at some of the companies where you could say, well, here are some examples of conscious leaders. So Rose Marcario, who's the CEO of Patagonia, is often pointed to as an example of someone who leads in a very conscious way, who's brought in lots of different practices throughout the company that make sure that the company is very, very conscious of its environmental impact, that supports issues that are important to the people within the firm, is very conscious about its supply chain, and all of these types of things. We can actually look to these companies such as Patagonia and say, well, actually, this is a success story by any measure, and there's also conscious values within it. So the idea that sometimes we think, okay, well, typical business, we need to think about profit and loss, shareholder return, and so on, and this is the stark reality of business. We're starting to test the market and say, well, actually, people within business and customers of business are also interested in the conversation, like, how do we do business? And what is the impact of this business? And this is something that actually I think we can be a bit braver about, that our consumers are interested in how we do things, are interested to buy from companies that are values aligned with their own values. People who are entering the workforce today certainly are interested in, do the values of this business align with my values? And for a lot of people, they might say, well, actually, there's a bit of a mismatch between my personal values and the business. And then it's like, well, what can I do? What can I challenge? Even if it's just a few small things, maybe just in my own team, or is there some sort of initiative that I can bring in, that I can speak up for, so that we can all gradually change direction to a slightly more conscious future? So there's lots. It's difficult to pin it down to just one thing, but there's lots that comes in.
Yes, and I see in my career as well, and I can see the careers of others, we see that a lot of time we do take a shortcuts in life, and which is beneficial for short term, but in long term, they have their own repercussions which we have taken.
Yeah.
And we have seen certain leaders who stick to their principles and ethics in life, and do not compromise them for a petty benefits or their advantage. Work towards greater good of organization and also about people. Is that what you also integrate as a conscious leader?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the work within my book, it starts with this exploration of self-awareness, finding out what are our values. Not everybody is really in touch with that. The question, who am I, is sort of the grandfather of all spiritual questions, and it sits to a certain degree within the mindfulness practice, the reflection of who am I within practice, this question of what is self and so on, and lots of interesting explorations of that. And I think one of the things that we find within the journey of conscious leadership is a deep root of integrity and authenticity, and a sense that we can move through life thinking about, well, how do I align what I'm doing with primary sense of who am I being? And if we can tie those two things a little bit more together, I think it can really help us move through life. One of the elements within the teaching in my book is around the idea of alignment as an antidote to success. I was a lawyer when I went into my professional career as a barrister in London. And I was successful, and I'd been sort of achieving at various things throughout my life. And I'd become an overachiever. And I didn't really understand what that was. Why would it be bad to achieve too much? Until I realized at a certain point that my achievements weren't all going in the right direction. They weren't aligned with who I was as a person and what was kind of unique within me. And it took a big change of direction, 3 years of going deep into my spiritual practice to really find out what it was that uniquely was coming through me, and then bringing forward the conscious professional and my new work. And through that, I've found the sense of alignment. And I think people, if they can hear that the message of alignment takes us out of that comparative, egoic mind and into a sense of, wow, this just really feels true and authentic to who I am. I would kind of do it anyway. I feel joyful and happy being able to do these things and so on. Then it takes us in a different direction. I think that's part of the conscious journey too.
So very interesting, a journey from being lawyer, from barrister to become a conscious leader. And lawyers' journey are definitely not seen very in a positive light, especially in many cultures, because lawyers are basically mending things which are not right and making things which were not correct, and taking not exactly a profession, but then it's a difficult profession to maintain that consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. And people found it quite odd that I was a barrister. Even when I was a barrister, I was meditating. I was practicing Reiki, which is an energy healing system. And it did seem a bit odd. I had to kind of put on my armor energetically to go into court and do battle and fight the trials and so on. And I don't regret my career because I learned so much about discipline, about hard work, about advocacy and persuasion and argument. And I got to meet a lot of very interesting clients over the years and work with some fantastic people. But there was definitely less sense of alignment with who I was and what I was doing. And where I've come to now, being able to provide mindful education and to think about these ideas and to start pulling some of the ideas down from the ether and bring them to others really does feel very aligned for me.
So amazing, I really like the story what you're telling about your life, and it's very inspiring for many people who may be struggling in this life, that they are stuck in a rut and they are not able to actually shake off what they are doing because of many things. They have financial pressures, there are family pressures, there are commitments to work, and somebody to take that kind of a leap of faith to come out of that which is not enjoying and then do something which is less rewarding financially for sure, but it's a highly rewarding for spiritual or human development.
Yeah.
And definitely I admire you for that. Now when your journey progresses in the field of training, conscious leadership, mindfulness, digital well-being, there are many areas which I see you've been developing. Digitization is growing, complexity is rising, things are getting more complex. And it's more difficult to practice consciousness here because you are drawn into multiple directions. Mm-hmm. What are the key factors you think a person should do to become more conscious leader?
For me, it comes back to the practice of mindfulness. It's not a quick fix. It's something which I think needs to show up regularly in someone's life, ideally daily, but if not daily, at least maybe once a week, or if someone's not practicing at all, just gradually bringing it in. Those skills of being able to choose one thought train over another thought train is such a valuable skill. To be able to be posed with a stressful thought and to notice that thought within a wider beam of awareness, and to notice that we're also okay, maybe we're safe, and there's a stressful thought, enables us just to move through the challenges of our lives with so much more ease. And I think that is one of the most highly valuable things. If there could be a skill that we could download to everyone, I think it would just bring so much relief, because the experience of living life in modern times is to be bombarded with information, with emails and text messages and voicemails and notifications from our apps and our phone buzzing and all the rest of it. And the world, I don't think is going to change. Well, it will change, but it will be more exponentially, probably more data coming across our eyeballs every day. So I think it's going to be more and more important for us to develop a practice of mindfulness so that we can find our way through it, to keep a sense of who we are as we navigate all of this, because I think it's very easy to get lost in all of that data.
Yes, and indeed there is a greater need, and it's a growing need now, and Mindfulness India Summit, this is our endeavor to bring this knowledge and at least bring this awareness that so much of work, like professionals like you who are quit their careers and started a new career altogether, to bring this awareness. And definitely you're doing a remarkable work in UK and other part of the world. What is the biggest challenge you feel for a person to realize that he needs conscious awareness?
It's a great question. The biggest challenge, you're right, because it takes a certain amount of awareness to realize that there is some awareness development needed. And that is sometimes, you hope that the work you do will impact on the people that need it. But I think one has to accept that people find these practices at the right time for them. And there's a rhythm to the development of awareness within every being. And that's very personal. And one has to be respectful to that. And the people that come are the people that one teaches. And I think that's all one can do.
And while you're part of teaching, my question again extended to next challenge, that what kind of challenges do you face while you train people? Why are people stumbling upon things, and were they able to continue with this journey, or they drop out very quickly, they get bored, like going to gym, one day they get ready, tucked up with their new gym wear, and then they are in a gym, and next day they are sleeping and like a log and back in a bed. Is that happens to you very often to your practice?
Yeah, so very commonly in teaching mindfulness, or even on some of the other topics that we've touched upon, which are supported and founded by mindfulness, people find it really difficult to embed a mindfulness practice into their daily lives. One of the hardest things. A lot of people conclude after a certain amount of practice with mindfulness that they can't do it. And so there's always a lot of work to do around how, when we start practicing mindfulness, it is a bit frustrating. The thinking mind is very persistent in its delivery of cognitions through the brain all the time, and one can feel like we're not really doing anything. Helping people move through that stage and to practice some of the attitudes of mindfulness through those stages of acceptance and welcoming, non-judgment and so on. There's a lot of work there, but there's a lot of great wisdom that can come out of those aspects of training if people stick with it. So it's encouraging them, inspiring them to stick with it.
Wonderful. And I believe that people are actually now understand the value of the conscious leadership and mindfulness. What are you going to share this year in Mindfulness India Summit?
So I'm going to be speaking on 2 topics at the summit this year. So I'll be talking on conscious leadership, some of the things we've already talked about here today, and also I'll be leading a workshop on digital well-being, so helping people to maybe notice some of their dopamine addicted behaviors when it comes to interacting with their smartphone and so on, and their inbox, and bringing some self-awareness to that, and then just doing a bit of a checkup to make sure that all of the behaviors around our technology are intentional. For me, that's the real key message around those behaviors. Do I intend to do everything that I'm doing? I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll go and check something on the internet, and then 45 minutes later, I drag my head out of a whirl of cat videos and articles and all sorts of things, and you think, well, I wasn't really intending to do any of that. Maybe I just wanted to check the exchange rate or something for my trip. So yeah, coming into a sense of intentionality around digital devices is the aim of that one.
Wonderful. I think we keep more, and we would love to keep more. I'll continue to talk to you for a very long time. A given time, I think we need to conclude today. And thank you for sharing this amazing insight about the consciousness. And we look forward to hearing to you more and during the Mindfulness India Summit.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Neil, for your time and for sharing this wonderful insight.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for having me.
In today's interview, we saw how important it is for us to be conscious about our leadership style. How do we bring awareness within ourselves? How mindfulness plays an important role to be a conscious leader. I end this interview and thank Neil for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.